Hi, I'm Carla Sunberg, and I want to welcome you to this new series, Women in the Bible. Some people might say, well, why is it important to have a whole series on women in the Bible? I want to go back to my childhood just a moment. Because you see, when I was a child, I loved reading the stories in the Word of God, but I always got really excited when they had stories about children, because I wanted to relate to who that was in the Bible. I wanted to know that there were people just like me in the Word of God. And really, within our church, within our congregations, within those of you who might be studying, there are a broad spectrum of people, including men and women. And often we do hear many of the stories which are incredible about the men who've been wonderful leaders and the things that they've done in the Word of God. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes you want to find somebody that's like you. And as a woman, I get excited about reading about women in the Bible, because somewhere in the middle of that, I'm going to find somebody that teaches me a lesson. Maybe it's a good lesson, maybe it's a bad lesson, but somebody that maybe I can relate to just a little bit there in the Word of God. And so we're inviting you into this series to learn about the women in the Bible. And we may just be surprised to find out how many there really are. And you know, sometimes people have said, well, we just don't hear that much about the women because maybe they really didn't do all that much. Well, to be honest with you, most of the writers of the scriptures, most of the writers of all of church history have been male. And we do tend to write about the things that we're comfortable with, or we write about the things that we are more familiar with. And so male writers have tended to write more from a male perspective, and probably we have retained more of the male stories. One historian said, well, then presumably women just didn't do very much important work. Well, that was rather tongue-in-cheek. The reality is that those who write the history are those that will retain it for us in a particular way. So sometimes we have to dig into those stories. Sometimes we have to dig into the Word of God, and we might just discover a story there far larger than any of us even have begun to imagine. And I think that's what you're going to find through this series, that there are some amazing women that we find in the Word of God that were influential in the entire story of God, in God's revelation in history. They made a huge difference. And when we find them and we discover them, we will find ourselves there as well. These lessons are not just for women. They are for women and for men, as we discover God's full inclusion of women and men in the image of God, and how God has used us all throughout history to make a difference and to participate in His story. I hope that you are as excited as I am to get into this study and to find out what we can learn.